Hey guys, what's up? It's Joe Raiti from Raiti's Rise. We're back at it with another installment of what is in the Raiti's Rise garage. And today, what I have for you is this beauty right here. This is my 1993 Toyota Supra Premier Edition. But before we hop in and go for a little spin, let's talk about what's going on here. So, in automotive history, there are some legendary vehicles, and they come from many different brands. One of those, for sure, is the Toyota Supra, specifically the Mk4 Supra. Now, many people think it was just because of the Fast and Furious franchise and this car being a star standout in the franchise, why the Supra has its rich heritage. But it goes way beyond just being a movie car. The Mk4 Supra was a major turning point for the Toyota Supra, and it happened during a time where the Japanese auto manufacturers were really on their A game, and they were bringing an onslaught of major high-performance sports cars. So what I want to do with this review is I want you to hop in shotgun, and I want you to ride with me as we discuss and I talk about why the heck, why, out of all the Japanese standouts in the 90s, Acura NSX, Nissan GTR, you got obviously the Nissan 300ZX, Mitsubishi 3000 GT VR4, Mazda RX-7 twin turbo. Why, oh why, did I decide to go with a Mk4 Supra, and why this particular one? So let's go ahead, get your butt in that passenger seat, and we're gonna go for a little spin. As we're inside my 1993 Mk4 Supra Turbo, the Premier Edition. It's crazy because the early 1990s was jam-packed full of amazing sports cars, especially from the Japanese brands. And I was on the fence between which direction I really wanted to go with. I mean, I personally love a 92 3000 GT VR4, of course an RX-7 twin turbo, and the NSX was really a game changer back then for Honda and for Acura. Before I dive into why I bought this car, let me just tell you a little quick story about 1993 and what I was doing in school. So I was in my marine biology class. I was a senior in high school, and I remember being in class, and I just got my new issue of Car and Driver magazine, and on the cover of the Car and Driver magazine was a bright Renaissance red Toyota Supra Turbo, and it was a full, inside that magazine was a full in-depth review. And I remember sitting at the back of class. And back then, you would sit at these big rectangular tables, 2 students to a table. And I remember sitting in the back of class while the teacher was doing his thing. And I had my issue of Car and Driver tucked into my marine biology book, and I had it propped up on my desk. So it looked like I was reading about marine biology, but what I was really doing was reading the Car and Driver article about the 1993 Supra. It's interesting because the car was really taken to a new level from the previous generation. Previous generation, getting on throttle a little bit, previous generation was more of a GT touring car. This was an all-out brute sports car. And if you compare it stats-wise to, say, an Acura NSX, it actually out-accelerated an Acura NSX, both 0 to 60 and quarter mile. But there's always been that love way before Fast and the Furious, way before there's been that personal love for me to always have one of these. And when I came across this particular one, it really stood out to me for many, many different reasons. Now, even though the issue of Car and Driver had the Renaissance Red Supra with the big wing in the back, I don't know if it's because I've gotten a little older or what it is, but I've kind of fallen in love with and appreciated the Supras that didn't have the wing. And I've had to educate a lot of people at Cars and Coffee events, because when they see the car at first, they think it's a non-2JZ car, which the non-2JZ cars came with no spoiler. Plus they came with a bunch of other different things like smaller wheels, no 6-speed manual transmission, blah, 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 blah. But when I saw this one, and it was a premiere edition, so there was a certain amount of vehicles that they sold, the first ones to come to the United States from Japan, that were premiere editions, and you got the special badge, you got a letter, which I have all that stuff that goes back to the original owner. And it's interesting because Toyota thought that here in the United States, many people wouldn't want the rear wing. So the premiere editions, you're looking at no rear wing. And there's just something just pure about the design. I love the Supras with the rear wing as well. I mean, if I could have one of both, heck, that would be fantastic. But not having the rear wing, just, you see the clean body lines of the car. And if you know anything about Toyota sports car history, you would know they had a car called the 2000 GT, and that car obviously didn't have a wing. And the body lines of this car, you can see where they look back at the past and took some of the lines from the 2000 GT. So I really, really love that. And then for this one in particular, another big standout was that it's not a Targa top. I'm not really the biggest Targa fan. I'm not even a sunroof kind of person. I usually don't take my Targa top off my C4. Not really into convertibles. I mean, I love enjoying them when I have them for a Presley vehicle, but I really don't want to own a convertible. I would, here in Florida, it's just, especially during the summer, it's just way too hot. So finding one that has a hard top was ultra rare. And then my color of choice is Alpine Silver. I think the Alpine Silver on this car really, really is fantastic, especially showing those body lines. Other than that, when it comes to 93, I mean, it's the first year of the Mk4 Supra. This particular one being a very well cared for vehicle. I mean, it's got 75,000 miles, so it's not like the car has no miles on it. It's got miles, but the previous owner went through everything, and he's the type of person that wanted everything to be like it was back in 1993. And I could respect that. So things like the timing belt was changed, brakes were done. I mean, the car has needed nothing, which is really nice. And that's another reason why this particular one, I was like, well, geez, it's turnkey, ready to rock and roll. I have all the maintenance records for the original owner. I have all the sets of keys, the original floor mats, even things like the original front mud flaps. These are things that have been lost over time. These are things that people throw away, take off, replace, don't want it, blah, 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 blah. And then, of course, underneath the hood, the car is all original. I mean, to find a 2JZ that has not been molested, chopped up, cut up, and modified is becoming harder and harder every single day. And Not to say I don't like a good modified Mk4 Supra, don't get me wrong. Those are killer, and there's lots of people out there that do amazing things with their Mk4 Supras. But for me, it's all about the purity. And it's just, when you think about how rare this car is, being a Premier Edition, Alpine Silver, left-hand drive with a hard top, and no rear spoiler, it's just super, super, super rare. And then, of course, the other big thing is that how well she runs. I mean, this thing is, she's bulletproof. Let's go on throttle. On throttle, here we go! Listen to that. Nice. Now, of course, with it having the stock exhaust, I'm not getting that crazy 2JZ sound. But, like I said, for a purity, I feel like I'm the caretaker of this car. That eventually one day, far away from now, I am going to have this car be, you know, go to somebody else, right? It's eventually going to go to somebody else because I can't take it with me. I've been trying to figure that out, but I haven't come up with a solid plan yet. But you can't take it with you. So eventually this car is going to go to someone else, and I feel like I'm the caretaker to show people, because it's so cool when you're at an event, when you're at a gas station and somebody comes over and talks to you about the car. Many of them have never seen a stock Mk4 Supra Turbo in person, just because so many of them are all modified, and you really don't see tons of them all the time depending on where you live. So it's just really, really neat to be able to share with them what a stock Mk4 Supra, and also tell the story about the Premier Edition. Tell the story about, you know, the car when it was launched in '93 and really what it meant. I mean, the fact that it could outperform pretty much all the other Japanese sports cars at the time, let alone cars like the Corvette. And the best part is, one of the few rare times where the US version has more power than the Japanese version, than the JDM version. So that's another nice touch. But you can see and hear the car is rock solid. I gotta give a big shout out to Jeff, who took such good care of this car and got her to where you see her today. There's not a thing she needs. Is she perfect? No, she's not perfect. Like I've always said, there's no car that's 100% perfect. And when it comes to perfect condition, she's not in perfect condition. But what she is in is an amazing stock condition, showing certain bruises after 75,000 miles. But the engine, solid, rock freaking solid. I just love driving her because it immediately takes you back to a simpler time. No stupid infotainment system, no screens, no buttons on the steering wheel, none of that garbage. And I try to think about what 18-year-old Joe Raiti, or technically at the time when I was in marine biology class in '93, 17-year-old Joe Raiti, what he would think about driving this car. And how, be honest with you, I never thought I would ever have the opportunity to drive or own something like this. And of course, it all comes back to all of you. I mean, the Raitis Rides Garage is there because of everybody's awesome support. So from the bottom of my heart, I know I've said it before, I'll keep saying it until the day I'm no longer around. Thank you everybody for being so supportive and being on this crazy, amazing journey with me. It's been really, really fantastic. I mean, and it continues to be fantastic. So thank you. But like I said, the way this car drives, I mean, one of my biggest zonks about the car is that all it has is a coolant gauge. for a sports car like this, where's my oil pressure? Where's my oil temp? I even want a freaking voltmeter, and it should be here in this car. And then of course the other thing, which, I mean, I know I could change it, but I'm not going to, is how all the steering wheels are basically Toyota Camry wheels. It's like you look down and it's the same steering wheel out of a Toyota Camry. But of course, a 93 Camry does not perform like this car. But I'm hope that you're enjoying these Raity's Rides visits of what's in the garage, and just touching on why do I do the things that I do? Why do I like the cars that I like, and why did I buy the cars that that I have been able to buy? But let's go on throttle one more time. You ready? On throttle, here we go. It's cool because remember, with the twin turbo setup, it's a bi-turbo. So one turbo spools up first and then the other one comes on. So it's a really, really unique driving experience. And you know why this car was such a performer, especially back in '93. I mean, 0 to 60, 4.6 seconds, if you knew how to drive a manual transmission properly. Back then, that's mind-blowing. Today, that's still a pretty quick time. But let's get back. We got to move on to the next car in the garage. Let's get back to where it all started and wrap this one up. So I'll see you in a split second. All right, guys. I tell you, any day that I could take you for a ride with any of the vehicles in the Raity's Rides garage is definitely a good day. Let me know what you think. If you were in the same situation that I was, especially in the time period that I grew up in, would you have gone Mk4 Supra, or would you have gone with another legend? And you could tell me, it could be those Japanese icons that I mentioned at the start of the review, or was there maybe another car from the late 80s, early 1990s that makes your heart pitter-patter? Let me know down in that comment section. But if you're new to the channel, you're on your way out, hit that subscribe button. I promise you it's worthwhile. Come back for more. If you are a subscriber, thank you for being part of the Raity's Rides family. We got to give it up to LGR. She knows cameras like the back of her hand, and she's able to always get you the perfect angle, no matter what car we're filming. So thank you, Lori, for your hard work. And just like always, guys, I'll see you on the next ride.